Hi, this is Ed with SGUTV, and today we're going to be talking about hypersensitivity. Now, what is hypersensitivity? Well, it could mean a lot of things, right? You could say, oh, Ed, I think that you could use a haircut. And I'll be hypersensitive and say, hey man, what do you mean? It's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about hypersensitivity in regards to the immune system. So, let's suppose, for example, that I picked up this pen right here. Now this pen, just so you know, is actually a foreign substance. It's something that that's not actually part of my body. So let's say that I picked up this pen and all of a sudden my hand started to break out with a rash. You might say to yourself, well, that sounds like an allergy. It sounds like maybe you're allergic to that particular substance right there in your hand. And I'd say you'd be right. And this is an example of hypersensitivity. So it's your body's responding too strong to something that's in your body. It could be something that's natural to your body. It could be something that's a foreign object. So let's get into it. Now, what is the primary mediator of hypersensitivity? Now, you might think to yourself, well, what is he talking about? And that makes sense. Well, your immune system is actually made up of two different parts. We're going to have the innate immune system, and we're going to also have the adaptive immune system, right? So these two parts they have like slightly different functions. The innate immune system helps you to react again and again to different molecules. Could even be a bacteria or a virus, or it could just be a foreign object like this plastic in my hand, right? And your body says, oh, that's not part of myself, I need to get rid of it. We get into more of those different markers and things like that in another video. But let's go back to talking about innate versus adaptive, right? You have adaptive immune system. Let's suppose that I catch chickenpox, and then later on I'm exposed to someone with chickenpox, but I actually do not have an active chickenpox infection. I do not come down with chickenpox and have spots all over my face. Then that's because of the adaptive immune system. That's because of B and T cells that work together to say, oh, we've encountered this before, let's make a whole bunch of antibodies and let's fight this off. So when we think about the example that I just gave you, you might think to yourself, well, it makes sense that hypersensitivity would seem to be associated with innate immune reactions, but however, okay, this is just something for us to remember, hypersensitivity is primarily associated with adaptive immune system, B and T lymphocytes, okay? I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But one of the prime things that we can think about, a way to remember that is, a lot of times these guys that are associated with these antibodies, or these immunoglobulins, right, IgE, IgG, Th1, Th2, these are all part of the adaptive immune system. So even though it seems intuitive that they're actually part of the innate system, that's actually incorrect. As part of the adaptive immune system, I'm about to explain why. So the thing is that, let's say for instance, type 1, right? Even though it seems like it's an innate immune response system reaction, actually it's releasing preformed IgE, right? And your body is actually, that's why a lot of times with certain allergies, you need to be exposed to that particular irritant at least once, right? The first time you're exposed to plastic, nothing happens. But the next time you're exposed to plastic, then you start to break out in the rash and all this other kind of thing, right? That's the idea anyways. I know some people that have bee stings, things like that, right? Certain toxins your body can just automatically recognize and start to promote the IgE response. So maybe you never got stung before, you just get stung once and all of a sudden you have a crazy reaction. Why is that? Because your body also, your innate system and your adaptive system kind of work together. So you have the innate system that kind of has certain molecule triggers that will set off the adaptive system. So in that case, even though it doesn't seem to be gelling up together, that's the connection, okay? Let's talk about hypersensitivity type 1, okay? Now, First Aid, which is a very good resource for helping to memorize these types of, there's so much to memorize in med school, there's so much. So one thing that can help us is to have like acronyms or different things, memory tools. I will be using some of these other memory tools as things goes on, but the trick is to use ABCD. A standing for anaphylactic and atopic, B standing for body or antibody, C standing for complement, and D standing for delayed. So type 1, we remember anaphylaxis, and atopic. Really, anaphylaxis for me is the one that I really hold on to. Okay? Now, when we talk about the type 1 hypersensitivity, it's the fastest of all the hypersensitivity reactions, and it can be the most severe. It can literally kill you within a minute, right? Well, maybe 2 minutes, right? Because your whole entire, your heart starts racing, you're requiring you to have more oxygen in your body, your throat constricts and you can't breathe, anaphylaxis, and then you die, right? So type 1 is something that you definitely want to be watching out for. Now, as I said before, right, what happens is that the cells are promoted, right, by this irritant to release preformed IgE. Now, IgE is associated with, I use a mnemonic that helps me to try to, or an acronym that really tries to help me remember that. E stands for enemy. So E would mean that it's taking action against, parasites, multicellular parasites, let's say, for example, like worms or things of that nature, right, that your body's trying to fight off, okay? The IgE is released, the preformed IgE, that's important, okay? I put it in a different color here just so you remember, okay? It's gonna trigger something Fc epsilon Ri, and that actually sounds like the word fierce. You see this fierce-looking spider over here, right? And you think to yourself, well, I can remember that, right? And remember IgE, and it's epsilon over here, right? And this is kind of cool because even though there's a lot of things in medicine that don't make sense, like 1 will line up with B, and 2 will line up with A, and 3 will line up with D, can't they just line them up, please? Well, in this case, it does line up. E will be triggering epsilon, alpha will be tripping off IgA will be tripping off alpha. Thank God, all right? All right, let's talk about what happens here. The mast cells, okay, it triggers FcRI on mast cells and basophils, and mast cells, if you take a look over here, I drew this boat with a little mast, okay? And if you think about it, this would be the tissue, and then it would be stimulating some type of physical surface. And basophil sounds like, B stands for blood, okay? So it's going to be handling the circulating response, okay? And the early phase is remarkable for the release of arachidonic byproducts, which are going to be inflammatory molecules. Okay, so that's going to be like over here, we can see that this guy has a bunch of dots. It's an arachnid, okay? That's going to help us remember that hypersensitivity type 1 is, the early phase has to do with the arachidonic release, okay? Now let's talk about the late phase, okay? The late phase over here is remarkable for the production of TNF-alpha. What is TNF? It stands for tumor necrosis factor. When your body has, let's say that I had a large tumor over here, right? Oh no, how's your body going to try to react to it? Well, it's going to try to, tumor necrosis, right? There's something bad there. It's going to try to kill it, right? That makes sense. Now, what does tumor necrosis factor do? It's actually a inflammatory promoter. So, your body's trying to shut it off. It's trying to get a whole bunch of leukocytes over there, right? Inflammatory. What happens when I have an inflammation? It becomes big and red, right? And then the circulation is promoted to it, so all the blood is rushing over there, carrying along with the white blood cells. You may have some pus develop, right? And then it'll be oozing and look all gross. And that's because all the leukocytes are there, the white blood cells, right? When you see the white stuff coming out, some of that's white blood cells, okay? We also have IL-3 and IL-5. Okay, those are body signals. And you can see over here that we have this spider over here is a little bit weird, right? We all know spiders have 8 legs, but this spider has 3 legs on one side and 5 legs on the other. This is going to help us to remember that we're talking about IL-3 and IL-5. Let's talk about the GM-CSF. All these acronyms you got to memorize. GM stands for granulocyte, and M stands for macrophage, and CSF stands for colony stimulating factor. So we can see that this head over here, it kind of looks like a macrophage, right? It's kind of big. You have these little fangs coming out, right? It's like the macrophage trying to envelop the bad guy and eat him up, right? So this can help us remember, right? Granulocyte, and we have the macrophage, colony stimulating factor. Then we have IL-4 and IL-3, okay? And IL-4 and IL-3 are associated with particular cells. It will just stimulate, actually, IL-3 will stimulate the whole entire immune system, but just so you know, the adaptive system usually needs additional stimulation from IL-7. And IL-4, where is that involved? IL-4 is involved with eosinophils, right? So it will also provoke eosinophil reaction as well as B-cell reaction, but they also sometimes need some other guys to be involved with that. IL-3 and IL-4 also promote Th2 response, and Th2 response is also affiliated with eosinophils, right? Or enemy, or this kind of parasite-looking thing, right? So, what is Th2? Let's talk about that. There's Th1 and there's Th2. There's two types of T helper cells. Th1 is going to be taking care of bacteria, protozoans that are intracellular that have been eaten already, and then it's going to, what does T helper cells do? They signal, right, other cells to come in and take action upon the baddie, right? So, but Th2 is really going to be responding against extracellular things like parasites, things that are sitting outside of cells, causing all kinds of havoc inside of your body. Besides this, okay, oh my goodness, there's so much to memorize, right? We also see that this, he's got a rainbow on his face, okay? Now, we know that rainbows are often associated with the gay movement, right? Gay, right? But in this time, it's not G-A-Y, it's G-A-E. That means IgG, IgA, IgE are involved within, I just said IgE is like the main guy, right? Let's remember that it's preformed. But there is some also stimulation of IgA, right, and IgG as well. IgA, if you think about it, it's going to be in your mucous membranes. Remember I said anaphylaxis, right? Your throat's going to swell up. It makes sense that IgA is going to get involved. IgG is the most common. IgG stands for general, right? Does it really stand for general? No, but that's how I memorize it, right? IgG is general. That's the most prolific immunoglobulin in your system. So they're almost always getting involved with just everything, right? Let's take a look at what else. We also have something called CCLs, which are known as eotoxins, right? So you can see this fang right here, it's dripping some toxin over here, and we see that they're kind of like moving. These motion things kind of look like the word letters CC. So this can help you remember CC, and this might look like a lowercase l, right? If you want to, maybe I can even add like, a little thing over there, right? A little extra thing, and now it looks even more like an L, right? CCL, right? Now, I use the major mnemonic system. What is the major mnemonic system? I advise you to look it up. I will have another video regarding the major mnemonic system, but it's something you can Google. Now, in the major mnemonic system, you actually try to memorize numbers because our mind is not meant to memorize random numbers like 1, 5, 4, 9, 3, 12, right? But we do remember characters, we remember stories, so I could say the dog was walking down the street. It's very easy to remember, right? The dog was walking down the street. But I don't even remember those numbers, 1, 4, 12, 13, some weird numbers, you can't memorize that. So using the major system, mnemonic system, we're going to be translating the CCL numbers we have to memorize that are associated with this particular hypersensitivity one. Here we see, this is the dad over here, right? My poor dad. Okay. He was doing his taxes, right? That actually stands for eotaxins, right? Also helping us to remember taxons or toxins, right? My dad is kneeling, right? And this spider here is gnashing his teeth. Dad, right? D-A-D-D-D. The D-D sound stands for 11, right? 1 and a 1. So this would be CCL 11. Okay, Dad. He's kneeling, okay? N stands for 2, and L stands for 5. So we know that this is going to be CCL 25. And also, this guy over here is gnashing his teeth. So that would be CCL 26. Okay? So that helped us to remember the essential components of what we have to memorize for hypersensitivity type 1. Now let's talk about hypersensitivity type 2. Okay? Now, once again, type 2 is associated with antibody mediated. These guys can be for soluble antigens, right? But type 2 is kind of special in that it's associated with cells, okay? And also, on the streets, right? We all listen to rap music is very popular. I don't know if that's something you listen to. Maybe not, but sometimes people say, yo, you caught a body, Or they say you bodied someone, that means you killed them, right? Or you caught a body, that means you caught a murder charge, or you murdered somebody. It doesn't have to mean you caught a murder charge, but body is associated with death. And when you think about hypersensitivity type 2, it's killing things inside of your own body, right? What does it kill? It can kill off red blood cells, right? What happens if it kills off your red blood cells? Well, you're going to have anemia, obviously, right? It can kill off your platelets, right? That means that you're not going to be able to clot very well. So it's going to be like you're cut yourself and then keeps bleeding out. That could be a result. It can also kill your heart cells, right? It could have a myocytic effect. Myo meaning heart, right? Cytic meaning killing. So it can be like that. Over here I have a muscle over here. And this muscle, there's a disease that's very commonly tested on the USMLE called Myasthenia Gravis, right? And these muscles over here are impacted by these antibodies, right? They clump all up on there and then they kill them off. Now we can see over here, remember over here that we were talking about IgG, AE, and I told you what those things are about. In this case, we have the involved molecules are IgG and IgM, okay? G and M. Now, once again, G is the most common molecule that's hanging out, so just generally think of IgG. And if it's just a couple letters here, right? Everything's IgG except for this one's IgE, it's special, right? And we already have a mnemonic over there. This is going to be, and type 4 is its own special thing, so we'll get to that later. But IgG is just easy to remember. IgM is one of the first molecules that's produced in response to any type of adaptive immune response to any type of baddie, okay? So M is actually you think about it, it's the first responder. So it can be easy to remember. You might remember the word muscle, right? Here's a couple muscles, and IgM is involved as well in this particular pathway. So not so bad, right? Let's move on to hypersensitivity type 3, okay? Now with hypersensitivity type 3, okay, it's going to be having immune complex, and it also affects the complement system, okay? What is a complement system? Like your body is exposed to something and says, hey, you're looking kind of good today. That's not the type of complement system I'm talking about. We do have another video that talks about the complement system, but I'll tell you the complement system is actually part of the innate response system, and it's going to be sending out signals that are going to encourage the destruction of baddies. It could be through something called membrane lysis, right? There's something called MAC attack, membrane attack complex, where it'll take a cell like this, and then it'll poke a little hole in here, and then it'll lose all its contents, like it loses all of its guts, and then it dies. Or it could also put some markers on the cell for destruction, so macrophages can come in and it says, oh look, it has these special markers on there. That means that this is something that I should eat. This is something I should destroy, right? It'll also provoke the inflammation response that we talked about earlier. So when we take a look at this, once again, we see this IgG, and there's certain symptoms that are associated with with hypersensitivity type 3, okay? And that's going to be, over here we can see that I have this guy called, who is this right here? We see a king, and he's got this sword in his hand. What kings, with swords in their hands? Well, I think about King Arthur, okay? And one of the things that we can remember is there's something called the Arthas reaction, where they took this poor little rabbit, they injected it first with this, some type of toxin, right? Maybe snake toxin, and then the rabbit developed an immune response to the toxin, right? So you think if I inject the rabbit with some venom, it's going to be all good. This rabbit will survive and hop on to its merry little life. Unfortunately, no. With hypersensitivity type 3, right, they have a way overblown reaction, and those rabbits actually die. So this just helps you to remember King Arthur is associated with type 3, okay, and we all know what happened to King Arthur. He died at the end after being betrayed by his wife and his best friend, Lancelot and Guinevere. It's a sad story, and hypersensitivity is a sad story, so oh well. And look at King Arthur over here. He's got this fever, right? He's burning up, right? Look at all these little red marks coming out of his head. He's got a rash all over his body, right? Look at how swelled up he looks, right? Look at his joints. They're in pain. They're all swelled up, right? So joint swelling, rashes, fever, these symptoms are associated with hypersensitivity type 3, And you can see over here, right, it's November, right? November is often known as it's near the end of your life, okay? Can hypersensitivity type 3 kill you? Well, actually, any of these things can kill you, right? But this one is the most dramatic one, right? But in terms of how long it usually takes to come into effect, it's kind of slow, okay? We think about all the tales of King Arthur, and it's kind of like it's kind of a thick book, right? It takes a long time to get through. You could see it could take 2 to 3 weeks, so I have this month, which is chopped up into 4 weeks. 2 of the weeks are blacked out, and the blue one here is this blue week here, because it's kind of optional, right? It could be 2 to 3 weeks for the response to occur. So this is just how we memorize hypersensitivity type 3. We're basically done. Hypersensitivity type 4, let's finish it off. This stands for delayed, right? You have exposure to something and you don't have any response for it until maybe, sometime later. That's going to be hypersensitivity type 4, okay? Now, hypersensitivity type 4 can take about maybe a couple days to settle in. I'm sorry, actually when I talk about hypersensitivity type 3, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for your body to really kind of create the conditions that are going to end up causing death, such as the Arthus reaction. So you inject the rabbit with the toxin, right? And then the next day you hit them off with the actual toxin, right? Not enough to kill it, and the hypersensitivity type 3 will probably not have enough time to really kick in and do its full work. But in hypersensitivity type 4, right, it's associated with poison ivy, okay, nickel, latex. And you think about poison ivy, right, you could play with the poison ivy and you won't break out right away. But maybe the next day, right, you will actually say, oh my goodness, look at that rash, I must have been playing with poison. That poison ivy I played with yesterday, I guess I really wasn't immune to that particular effect. It's kind of like a little pun, because honestly, what you are kind of immune to it, or you're having an immune response, right? So you're not really, able to escape the effects. It's funny how we use the word immune in different ways. Anyways, the TB test, you ever have, if you work in the health field, you probably had this. If you ever work in the hospital or, other health institutions, they put a little, they stick you with a needle and a little bit of the liquid goes inside, and after it goes down, right? And then if it swells up, that's actually a positive test, and they say, we need to have some extra precautions, or maybe we can't even have you working inside the hospital. But that's also a delayed reaction. Organic molecules can also cause this particular reaction. Okay. So this one is special, right? It takes the longest. It's going to be the most working with your adaptive immune system. Now the thing is that these all were adaptive immune system to a certain extent, but we also have engagement here. These were kind of like B cell, right? Immunoglobulins are created by B cells. But these T helper cells, right over here, we have extra involvement of T cells. This is something different, right? And the T cells are kind of like the first responders of the immune system. Okay. We have TH1, which is going to be CD8, which is going to be killing off the cell, right? Remember we said before that's taking up intracellular parasites, could be even viruses, right? It gets into the cell, it turns the cell into a virus-making factory, and the cell just, when it's marked by this, it just says, hell, this cell is no good, we just need to kill it, forget it. CD4 is a T helper cell, right? And this CTL is your cytotoxic lymphocytes. So these are the guys that are involved, and it's actually the slowest, right? So, yeah, this is, you can make an argument this one is slow as well, right? Maybe the slowest, but, they're slow in different ways. So that's hypersensitivity. This helped me. I think it'll help you. Thanks for checking us out. All right, that's it. Thanks for checking out SGU TV. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out our other videos.